Jacques?
There are many semantic traps in this whole business, and I think one of them comes from confusing different levels. I think it's useful to think of at least three levels of the phenomenon. One is the physical, something landed, something off faces, something interfered with the environment in some way, including light, microwaves, and there is a second level, which is what you're showing us, which is a psychological, physiological level. If you will. People have mouths, people have eyes, they felt heat, they had a sexual experience, they had images in their brains or thoughts in their minds, and so on. And that calls for a different set of tools and a different set of semantics. And then the question you're asking now is the social question. What does it mean? And at that level, it really doesn't matter whether or not there are flying saucers around. I mean, if you can get enough people to believe that there are, which is something that industrialists or a group of people could do, whether or not there are UFOs, then you're going to get certain impacts. Last year, 53 people committed suicide in Switzerland and Canada, members of a cult in the Solar Temple. Something that has not been mentioned in the American press is that the top level of initiation of the cult was meeting extraterrestrials. The leaders of the group had bought machines producing holograms that created that experience. And clearly to these people who are not lower level people, these were people from a very high strata, social strata. This was real. I mean, this was real enough that they went through the whole experience.
Has this been written up? I mean, can we get a hold of it?
It's been written up in a French magazine that did a special investigation of that, but I don't think the Swiss police is talking too much about that aspect of it. They found, if you remember, they blew up the houses. Some of the detonators did not work. And in the ritual chamber of one of the houses, they found the carbine sheet. They cost about $100,000. So that addresses the question of reality. What is real and where can technology today create the impression of reality? And we're developing virtual realities here.
This relates to the question. I mean, if in fact, whatever this intelligence is, that's my third question, but let's say it has the capacity to grade or monitor or titrate or dose the intensity with which it is confronting us with its existence, say. What you're implying is if they did what a lot of people ask me, not in meetings like this, but sort of general, not so thoughtful conference, well, why don't they just show up and show us that they're real? You're, in a sense, answering why they don't, because there has to be some capacity to assimilate that impact by the people, and when it comes too powerfully, you're saying people commit suicide. I mean,
that's also why the whole phenomenon is so interesting. So it's forcing us to ask some basic questions about what is reality anyway. And the other thing where I would maybe take issue with what Fred was saying is that this is all new, but it's also very, very old. And there are entire libraries written in Latin that address exactly this question. Who are these beings? Are they good? Are they evil? If you remember in medieval times, the big problem was, the assumption was they're all, demonic. But then when you sprinkle them with holy water, which was done in some occasions, they don't vanish. So they just stay there. Which was a big problem for theologians. Also, that was at a time when people had a much wider concept of reality than were quick. Yes. And they were not limited to three dimensions. They were very facile with the concepts of entities playing throughout the consciousness.
I mean, there's one way to guard yourself from the demonic is you restrict the dimensions of reality so that you don't have to encounter it, except in nightmares or dreams or madness or whatever. Yeah, David.
I wonder, we're limited in the amount of knowledge that we have about the nature of reality. We, though, have accumulated some knowledge about how our own minds work, and our attribution of whatever characteristics, we know that the process of projection is likely to happen in the absence of information that can be otherwise verified. And other processes either of affiliation or of aversion or of fear or of bond. It's, the whole realm. And I wonder if it's not a fruitful way to approach the issue of what does this mean, or so what, or what can we do constructively to look at our own human condition and look at the way our minds work and look at what we do know about the way humans are likely to respond in a situation like this, with this kind of uncertainty.
But we have a couple of responses on that. Yeah.
Last year I did a book on soul, from Socrates to Ray Charles. And as I was going around the country again and again, people would ask, even after my descriptions of Siberian soul journeys and Plato's image of the chariot and Ray Charles singing what I'd say, there would still be the inevitable question, yeah, but what is it? And how can you prove it? Well, I'd say, well, go to a Ray Charles concert or go to a peyote meeting and talk to a peyote roadman who's gone off on a soul journey up through the top of the teepee, and then he's come back and he can tell you stories. Yeah, but what is it? What is it? Just recently, the state of Texas has officially declared that soul is, as Descartes said several centuries ago, in the pineal gland. And you want to know why? It's because of the phenomena of heart surgery. There are people going into heart surgery who are terrified of their old idea or image of soul in their heart. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to have the heart replaced, they may be losing their soul. So this has now become a major issue for people.
Are there any votes against it?
I don't know if there are any votes against this or not. James Hillman calls this the contemporary sin of literalization in the country. If you are literalizing everything, you have to pass a law to actually define where soul is. Or you have to do what Francis Crick has just done and reduce soul to the mind. Reduce it to the mind.
The brain.
The brain. A lot of people do that. Bennett does that too.
I just finished a book on the phenomenology of UFOs, and I suspect I'm going to go into the same lion's den for the next year. Yeah, but what is it? Yeah, but what is it?
Yeah.
My suspicion is that there is a lot of common ground between the two. As Jung saw, there's a dimension of soul to the UFO phenomena. Even Stryber talks about this as a soul crisis of some sort. I'm reading this as I read the soul issue, that it's a matter of our capacity of perception. If you sit in a room with Aretha Franklin and ask her what soul is, she'll stare at you like you've got three heads. Why do you have to ask? Soul is a depth dimension. It's something you experience. It's in the world itself. And for me, that the UFO issue, or the meaning of it, as you're describing to us, could be a clarion call asking us where soul is. Where is our capacity of perception? I listen to these kids, and I wonder why I haven't been able to perceive at a depth dimension that they do. I sit in a room with blues players, and I ask myself, why can't I feel at that depth dimension? This is a capacity of knowledge. It's a capacity of perception.
Yeah, that gets to why I've been so interested in this. A few of us, well, you were asked, but you didn't go. We met with the Dalai Lama a few years ago around, he invited several of us who are working on the abduction phenomenon to meet with him about what did this mean for consciousness evolution and for the future and for the earth and so forth. And at one point, he stopped in a meeting and someone was trying to ask him to explain something. He says, those creatures, he says, they're spirits. He says, but they're very upset. He says, they're upset. He says, we are destroying their physical and spiritual home. He said, they have no choice. He says, they have to come into our physical world to get our attention. He says, that's the only way that they can communicate that they have lost this, that we are destroying their home. So they manifest physically. And that kind of gets at where I think, certainly what has attracted me to this and why I work on this rather than channeling or something probably equally powerful. As someone raised in a secular rationalist tradition of prove it's real, I gotta measure it, I gotta see it, the physician, so forth. This phenomenon has that curious quality of not respecting the divide. What's your first name?
Phil.
That Phil's talking about, the divide between the world of spirit, soul, the unseen world, and the physical world. It destroys that deal that was made perhaps in the 17th century between the scientists and the theologians. The theologians will take care of the spirit world and the soul, and the physicists, the scientists will take care of the physical world. And as long as we can keep them separate, we don't have too big a problem. But this phenomenon has no honoring of that divide. It destroys it. It crashes across it and forces us to rethink the divisions, the philosophical, intellectual divisions that we've made. And I find that very attractive. I mean, I think that's interesting for somebody that tries to bridge these worlds myself.